What we've got in some questions, some comments, some queries, and so on. So we're going to we'll respond to those. You know, are there any particular questions that somebody wants to throw in at the beginning before we go, and then we'll see who's.
I've got a question about mobile ticketing.
Yep.
Have you seen a lot of data and I guess the trends around why they're purchasing on mobile? So if they're purchasing in different places, if it's more likely to be pre-sales or on the day or anything like that?
Since we started doing this project on Google Analytics, we have a master GA account that dumps all online transactions from those 65, 92 kind of split of venues and customers into one master Google Analytics account. So it's really good to do some, perverse data benchmarking behind the scenes, and on sales at 9 o'clock for a clubby, dancey event, and we have some venues who are really strong in that kind of area. There's no one on desktop because they are, they're on the metro, they're on the tram, that's what they're doing. So again, a lot's to do with that kind of on sale time, and we're seeing people stagger on sales because it gives people a chance. If I've got a really crappy 2G connection where I am, there's no way probably I can buy online on my mobile. But if it was at 8 o'clock tonight, I maybe kind of have got that, but then I haven't got the box office staff. But kind of mobile usage and time of day usage, as Roger was saying, strongly in that kind of 7 to 9 a.m, 5 to 7 p.m. Use, and also very dependent on the art form. We're really seeing that, and as well as just the usage, the average spend. So we see higher basket values in some cases online because people are in the pub and we're going, should we go to that concert tonight? Yeah, are we all in? And we're doing that kind of money carve up that Roger describes, but one person sat there with a tablet or with a phone. So the kind of social periods.
In New Zealand, we've got 38 organisations in the Optimiser benchmarking project. And does anyone want to hazard a guess as to how many of those organisations are mobile optimised of the 38? This includes art galleries, some museums, festivals, venues. It's a kind of good mix. Anyone?
25?
25? 5.
Gosh.
5 organisations in New Zealand are mobile optimised of that sample. Comedy Festival's one of them. So I think, before we can even think about the potential around mobile, it's a bit of an issue for organisations to, think about that area, think about the resourcing that's required. I think it's becoming probably easier because there's, it's kind of just to even talk to your web developer, it's not so hard as it once was, even a year ago. But it is
some automated tools.
That's right.
Take the site.
But it is an area that organisations seriously need to think about yesterday as to how people are experiencing their product online.
But it's one of those weird areas that we've certainly had venues doing research in the UK. And my favourite, I won't use the language, was that they surveyed the audience about kind of options for online ticket sales and so on. And the number of people who wrote, "Don't be stupid," kind of, you have to do this now. So they're asking the audience, what should we do about so-and-so? And they're kind of saying, you should have done it yesterday, please.
But I think there was a big thing with, I think Ron Evans hit upon it with Southern California study about young Hispanic males, that their only access to the internet was through a handheld. So, we've heard this phrase, digital exclusion, by only having an offer that's available online, but not just being online, the fact that you can't, it's a whole desktop site I'm trying to pinch and zoom on a budget 3.5-inch Android phone. So we have to be aware that, some of us are lucky in choice. We have a laptop, we have an iPad, we have a phone, we have we have a home PC, we have a work PC. But a lot of people, that device is their only internet access.
Yeah. Some venues in Europe are pointing out that one of the trends they can see is what they call post-experience purchasing. And that is that people go out, perhaps on something that they would call a date or something like that, and then late in the evening, sometimes in the early hours of the morning, they book 2 seats for another event in a few weeks' time, and it's because they've had a great night out, and they now can fix the next one and sort it out, and you know, while it's fresh in their mind, which is kind of quite interesting.
Sorry. You mentioned the success rate from hits of sales through Twitter. Is that sort of equal or on Facebook?
Varies by country.
I definitely see, because we do stats and benchmarking. I definitely see more. There's two things: one, referrals, people who picked up that link and actually followed it through, and then those that resulted in a sale. Different on again what you're selling, but especially for a younger, more fluid audience to a GA event, Twitter, because Twitter's here, it's now, it's happening, rather than those of you who may use Facebook who catch up every 2 or 3 days. So that message on a Twitter timeline, you're never going to get to it. It's going to get lost.
But you're more from younger.
Yeah, but also typically the mother that hasn't gone back to work or doesn't work, the fact they're sharing that, oh, this is on, this is good, there's this child accessible cinema, so where you're going to have mothers with babies, and so, oh, I didn't realise that was on, I want to see that film. That has a real kind of an activity about it.
And Twitter engagement, certainly through the arts, is growing at a much faster rate, more rapidly than Facebook at the moment, and so is Instagram. They're the kind of two kind of hot. I don't know if you'd agree with that.
Yeah, we're probably stronger on Facebook just because of probably the picture content, and we're still also quite mainstream in terms of comedy. So yeah, we tend to find that we tend to do different things on Twitter and Facebook. But the Facebook stuff tends to get better engagement for us at the moment. But there'd certainly be people that there's some fans of comedy and things like that on Twitter who are much probably stronger ambassadors, I guess.
That's interesting.
You hear from venues in the US that the interesting thing is that lots of Facebook users in the US appear to have not set their privacy settings in Facebook, and as a result, the systems are astonished by the data they're getting out of Facebook that comes through the API, and they're astonished at the reach that you get. That one person makes a post or something about something, and they can then kind of get that distributed hugely. So the kind of response rates they're getting are in fact because they're getting very wide access. The European pattern is not like that, where loads of people have got their privacy settings throttled right down, and so on. And I think that's having definitely an effect. Facebook themselves keep making this argument that they are convinced that there will be a point where around each person there is a significant community of cross-reference, and you'll get to what Alan Brown, the researcher in the US, calls the initiators, where people will be waiting for you to buy the tickets and confirm that that's a really great show to go and see, because they know that person knows all about that art form and so on. And I think that's going to be quite interesting.
Question in here, which was any data on case studies of rounding up and people becoming major donors, which I know you want to come in with a point from what we did in Christchurch, but you've been working with venues to kind of change the wording and to get more donations out of it, make it more successful.
Definitely. I think one of the biggest things, I think that venues think, well, if we ask for more, we'll actually get it. But I found when we changed words and asked for 50 pence instead of $10, which I was convinced one venue, which they couldn't understand why they weren't getting any donations. And I said, it's because you're asking for £10. And £10 is a lot to a lot of people if they've already purchased, tickets to something. So if you ask for 50p or even £1, you're going to see more people donating. And it did. In that, the one venue that I had, And the minute that I changed it, they started getting donation emails coming through, and he was shocked of how much. And it's just wording and the amount you decide you set that bar at, and you can move it up and down. But
You can experiment. You don't
Yeah,
lose anything.
I think the key thing is there is wording. Is I see
It
too many
is.
people who say
give us
want to make a donation?
Yeah.
Question mark.
an explanation on what you're doing. I mean, we do a give a brick, which is Andrew's favorite one to talk about, and it's to really help this venue that's, you know, building a new theater. So it's to give a brick to that theater, and that's a bigger amount of money. But then if you give options of, you know, help out the education, help out the arts, help out, it really, if you can separate it out, people can kind of choose and say, hey, that's what I want to do, I'm going to donate to
And
that.
it can be relative to the ticket purchase price as
Exactly.
well. So if you bought a $20 ticket, you don't want to then give maybe another $6 on top. You
Right.
maybe might give another $1.50 or
Right.
something.
Mm.
But if you've bought $200 worth of ticket, you might say, okay,
Yeah.
another $5 is fine. So, you
Yeah,
know,
it
it
really
depends
is.
whether
It-
you
It's
want.
really, I know Roger's dying to come in with a point on this. One idea, I was doing a piece of a data evaluation work with a venue in London, and I asked them, I said, oh, how many people have given to you in the last 2 years? And the finance director said, I can tell exactly how much money. I said, that's not what I asked. How many people? And we did a bit of data profiling, and it was about 12,000 people. And the CEO said, oh, that's fantastic. We can write to them all and ask for $5. And I said, but have you not spoken to them since you gave that, they had that money? You know, that you actually, have you thanked them for whether it's 50 cents, whether it was $5, have you actually thanked them? Or are you just going back again now asking for more, which I know picks up on the point you want to raise about the court.
Yeah, I mean, it's a Philip Aldridge story, which I think is kind of very interesting, because basically, obviously after the earthquake and when they were raising money for the temporary theatre for the court, they got lots of donations in, large and small, and Philip makes the point that he acknowledged every single one of them. Now, obviously, it's a pre-printed letter, but he topped and tailed it, you know, by hand on the letter. And they had a fundraising event, and this man came up to him and said, "You thanked me for my donation." And Philip said, "Yes." So that's very unusual for people to actually take the trouble to acknowledge the donation. It wasn't a big donation I gave you, and you wrote to me and said thank you. And Philip said, oh, that's fine. And the guy takes out of his pocket an envelope and gives it to Philip and says, we really appreciate the fact that you cared and what you're doing, and my brother and I thought we'd make another donation. Now, Philip is slightly embarrassed because he said, thank you very much, really kind of you, glad you came to our event, and put the envelope in his pocket. The end of the evening he opened it, and each one, there were 2 cheques for $10,000 in it. You know. Now, the point he was making was, and I think it picks up the point that Andrew makes, is that it's very, very important to say thank you and to pay attention to what do. And when somebody, you know, it's that old thing that fundraisers make, is that if you're if you're a bally organisation and you can get a lot of grannies to give you a little bit of money, the little bit of money they give them, to them is a hugely important thing that they're doing to say they really like you and they're supporting you, and of course they'll bring their grandchildren to you forever. And you need to acknowledge that donation, but a lot of them will add up to a really significant sum, and it's worth thanking them and keeping them in that loop.
I did work with a fundraiser a little while ago, and she made this horrifying, to me it was a horrifying comment, and we were talking about this progression path of fundraising, that can you get them to give a little and then commit to giving a little bit more and then build them up over time, really nurture them. And she said, I'm not interested in anyone who gives us less than £250. I am not interested. I have not got time to deal with those people.
Wrong.
But so many things start from dropping in somewhere for a coffee, and then, oh, actually, there's specials in here, and then your spend at a wine bar or cafe will go up over time because you've just been hooked into a very early stage. Like crack dealers. Anyone else from the floor before I go into more here? I saw one that fascinated me, which was on fairness. Someone said, dynamic pricing, is there any resistance because in its overall term of fairness?
The answer in practice seems to be no. In the States, when we've had discussions with this, it is quite clear that the major resistance is from arts managers and not from the public. The public seem to think that it's absolutely common sense and it's what you do. It's why they have secondary markets and so on. And people, ironically, often think that arts organisations undercharge. They don't set the prices appropriately. In order to make access to certain groups of the population, we reduce the ticket prices for everybody, rather than making sure that those we want to get special access to, we've given that access to. I think the difficulty is also how you present it. The few occasions where I've heard people saying that some people don't like the fact that the prices have changed is where they've not made it clear what the potential top range of the price was down to the lowest price. Fairly obviously, too, if you're using dynamic pricing, I would make this criticism of some West End producers. At the end of the day, a crap seat is a crap seat, and don't sell it at a premium price. You're an idiot if you do that, because somebody will pay that premium price to get into that performance, and they'll be so disappointed and cross, they'll hold it against you.
I think and this I call it roller coaster pricing. Where it goes up and down, and we're sat now next to each other at a performance, and it's good. Isn't it great value? $20 a ticket, and you're going to go, $20? I paid $55 because you were late in, or there was this kick in or drop in prices.
But we don't actually do that on planes, so I'm not sure how often it's a real risk in the auditorium.
I do. I'm fascinated to find out if I'm on a Jetstar or somewhere else, and then someone said, "Oh, well, this is a crap airline because there's no leg room and there's no free coffee and there's no seat back pocket." And I said, "Well, what do you expect for $25?" And they said, "I paid $520 because you booked yesterday at the last minute on a premium leg." So you do get that, and this up and down pricing is. I don't think it's fair.
Can I ask a question? Does PatronBase offer dynamic pricing functionality?
We have the ability to manually change prices dynamically, if you follow me. So during a run, you can change the prices. It won't affect previous sales. We don't have an automatic dynamic pricing.
Okay. And is Ticketmaster automated?
Yes.
Right.
We haven't had our customers haven't asked us for it, possibly because of this sort of debate.
Yeah. I mean, you do get a lot of venues that are patron-based users in the UK who do it manually, in the sense that they set up the prices and they, in effect, move the price breaks and they move the price.
But I think that's different. I think that's a difference of changing.
That's revenue management.
Yeah, that's revenue management. That's not dynamic pricing. I don't have a problem with someone, if you have a run and the shows are selling out, to change that price, because it's obviously in demand. I have a problem with someone going in and each click the price is going up, or the days it's going up or going down. I think that's where the fairness.
And I think it's crucial that you have made clear, if there's a $200 top price, it has to have been mentioned from the beginning of when the on sale started.
So how many people here are actually, because Louise, you just said, so Indian Ink is managing pricing according to demand. Does anyone else actually change?
We just do it when we're not selling. So they start doing this 2-for-1 thing, and then like we go to holiday programs, and it doesn't really matter if the program's not going to happen if we can't get 2 more kids, so we'll offer half price. People are excited to go holiday programs.
Yeah.
Is there any legal thing?
We've had a change of law in the UK about the advertisement of ticket prices has to be now inclusive of all fees for us. If you say tickets are $20, there can't be plus booking fee. If the booking fee is $150, you have to say it's $21.50. So I think there's going to be some interesting thing with that legislation clashing, and how you advertise ticket prices. If you publish your brochure and it says tickets from $20, I mean, we've always had that situation when your $20 ticket sells out and you say we've got none left, but actually now you've bumped the price to $22. You know, there's an issue there. I was doing some work in Belgium about 2 weeks ago, and we were talking to this venue about dynamic pricing, and they'd said they'd got 2 brand new MacBooks, taken them to 2 different neighbourhoods of Brussels, opened them up, launched Safari and searched for a price for a product, I don't remember what it was, and it returned at exactly the same moment from the same website, 2 different prices, because they were profiling the social economic profile of the region you were buying from. We've seen in the UK airlines who, through the use of cookies, if you continually search the same day and the same route,
the price goes up.
The price goes up because they know you're going to see Auntie Margaret. If you delete your cookies and do the same search, the price drops.
There's that something you could do for the round-up pricing. That if you know someone's a giver, you could, have like a $10 button if someone just contributes a little bit.
As a developer said at our conference, it's only a line of code.
I have had him subsequently killed, by the way.
We've actually had some changes to the development on our side, was because the one was just ask for a base amount of £1, and then that was, people could change it, but nobody was. So now our pop-up is actually blank, and we give them the option of how much they want to donate, and that seems to be making a big difference as well.
I think cookie behaviour can give you the wrong impression. If I clear my cookies for whatever reason, I'm perceived by visiting your website as being a new arrival, so I get an introductory rate, and sometimes we can kind of get those false readings. And the one I want to share, which is these 2 things, which is my frequent flyer cards. So I have a gold BA card and I have an old Star Alliance card. And on BA, on my flight from London, the hostess came round with a napkin and was look at this napkin and then look at the seat numbers, and then kind of came over and said, "Oh, Mr. Thomas, so glad to see you." And it made me feel really cheap and dirty because she'd scribbled my name on a napkin and kind of came through the gloom to kind of welcome me. So I didn't really feel welcome. Conversely, on Air New Zealand, where I'm not a frequent flyer, I'd had a glass of wine. And they came round to a top-up drink service. He said, "Oh, it was the Pinot Noir, wasn't it?" I said, "Oh, yes, it was." So not only what I was drinking, but, the particular kind of grape. And he goes, "Oh, this is a slightly different one. You might want to finish that one off." So that was a really nice thing, that he'd remembered who I am, not because of some faux piece of data, because he just cared and he remembered. And that sometimes with data. Well, I've got 6 more flights. If you're watching ANZ upgrade, we can do that with our customers when we remember our customers and we welcome them back. They feel nice about it, not because of some cheap scribble on a napkin.
Yeah, your point about discounting to me is very interesting, because I'm absolutely convinced that we're doing huge damage in the performing arts by cannibalising our value, and that we are discounting when it will not increase sales and it will potentially damage the total value.
And audiences are waiting as for discounts to appear.
So how do you change that mindset when some other people in the community have already done that? How do you change that mindset to the community that are expecting it?
I think you have to, in your communication, say to them, perhaps as a policy, we do not discount. We set our prices and we do not discount them. We may make special offers to specific groups of people. It seems to me that's the other thing about the personalisation I was talking about is, if you want to make an offer, why make it to everybody? Make it to the people who really you want to hit. Only email them with that offer. Only text message them with the offer. Don't do it to everybody else, you know. And those work. We see those working.
We did it once, but then all the mothers get together and talk, and then they all bust us.
I know artist directors who their house will be at 5 or 10%, and they'll say, well, my product I produce is worth $50, and if no one wants to come and see it at that price, they don't appreciate it. There was a question at the back.
I'm really interested in this discussion about pricing because, you know, having worked in the venue in various places, and pricing fascinates me too, but the received wisdom is exactly what you said, that you shouldn't discount, not only because of the fairness thing, because I've experienced that too, where I've had a subscriber who's been sitting next to somebody else and they've, you know, got a better deal because they bought later, you know, and complained. But interestingly, in Christchurch for the Arts Festival, we actually subsidised keeping the ticket prices down to $10 and $20, and they sold more tickets than they ever have before. Like, this was an organisation who was actually having a really hard time attracting audiences and selling tickets. And so in that circumstance, it worked. Well, that's what I'm told anyway. So I just be interested in other people's views.
I mean, I think the challenge is if you're going to have an established price that you've advertised and most attenders know is the established price. In a sense, that establishes value, and all the research that's ever been done in the performing arts shows that people use that price to indicate to a certain extent value, undoubtedly. If you then discount that price kind of generically to most people, you are definitely undermining the face value price. And the irony is that the people who are most likely to perceive the value of your discount are the ones most likely to pay the full price, because if you think about it, it only works as a benefit for them if they've appreciated the value in the discounted price. If you're actually trying to hit parts of the market who don't normally attend and may not have a higher price perception, the interesting thing is if you can find a way of making prices available to those people at what you think is the price they will pay, and you will get larger attendances. I mean, you know, if Tim Baker was here, he would point out that they managed to increase income for organisations as much by optimising prices downwards, in many cases, as upwards. You know, we used to have a situation where the difference in the West End between the top price and the bottom price was a factor of 5. The top price was 5 times the lowest price. Now it's rarely bigger than 2.5. Now, what that means, in my view, is there were people, you know, 2.5 times difference somewhere has gone, that people could only afford tickets at those prices and would have cheerfully gone and sat in not very good seats to enjoy those shows. Now in the West End, they'll expect you to pay £35 to sit in a terrible seat.
Can I just ask a question on pricing from generally? Is how many in the room have a different price for Friday and Saturday night? They do.
We just Quartet just changed to that. We had a study done, so we moved to hot nights for Friday and Saturday after quite a lot of discussion and a lot of agreement, disagreement, and we've had virtually no problems at all.
So just as a very simple revenue management exercise, that's something.
Yeah, it's $5 on a Friday and Saturday. We didn't put it up. It's just cheaper during the week.
Well, the different prices, the differential pricing.
Better value, not cheaper.
Just different pricing, different.
Yeah,
what I'm talking about the days of the week, because that's when people want to go more often. And if they aren't prepared to pay that extra $5, they'll go earlier in the week, which frees up the
Friday and Saturday, which are generally full anyway, and it's working really well.
Yeah. So just a simple thing to just check. Maybe we're thinking about. Anyone else?
I think that discounting for the arts festival works because it's such a short period. To subsidise it to get your numbers up is one thing, but it's a real false economy for our regular ones. We've got Scared Scriptless, which has been on stage for 20 years. We did a grab one a couple of years ago before my time, and they doubled the audiences at half the price. But afterwards, they were waiting for that value, and sales actually dropped off much worse after. We had $16 to go to Scared Scriptless every Friday and Saturday, and and the actors are all happy because the audience doubled, but there was no net effect to that revenue. And in fact, I believe it slightly damaged the brand after that, because people said, well, I was going for 8, now it's back to 1600.
Yeah, well, we are definitely seeing a situation where, unfortunately, some venues, because for whatever reason in Europe, they think their sales are down and they're discounting, and then their managements are going, oh, in order to survive, we need a ticket yield of this. And we're kind of go, well, so why did you offer tickets there? Because that's a significant gap and you haven't got funding to close it.
It's a question, but I'm interested on Helen's kind of slant on it from the CNZ view. It says, I'm the manager, how do I know what is happening in the box office and how sales are going and what's working promotion-wise? Is that this kind of collaboration project, is that the view to give this kind of, not just venue-wide, but culturally wide across the sector?
So these will be hirers of Q.
Yeah.
I would say most organisations that we're working with would have 1 or 2 full-time employees with multiple roles within their organisation, you know, marketing, programming, HR, you know, the financial management, the list is endless. So they will work with us on actually more on the segmentation, the design of the campaigns and the analyses. But what we recognise is that we need someone that's really skilled and trained in the area of box office and data and CRM and data management to basically work alongside this pilot specifically to help organisations with the pooling of the data as well as the mining of it in order to, you know, get the right list for the right organisation, or to help them with packaging or cross promotions. So, you know, these organisations we're working with won't necessarily have an awful lot of time on their hands to, you know, dedicate to the pilot yet. Obviously they're interested in, you know, the audience development benefits. So that's a particular function we know we have to look at as part of the scoping. Okay. Does that kind of answer?
Yeah, we've access to their productions and their events, so they can see it without having to be in the box office or getting a report. They can go online and just see what's happening in the box office.
I was deliberately cutting you off there, Roger, because we're into dashboards there, aren't we?
Yeah.
With this kind of, you know, this
I'm not. I've been told I'm not allowed to talk about
But
dashboards.
with collaboration, when we were in Vegas, because the arts ticketing world is relatively small, so in one box office, you know somebody from another box office. And what we started to do is quarterly, we would all meet together in somebody's venue for about 2 hours and just have a chat about what's going on. We may be competitors outside, but inside we were friends, and what worked for us, what didn't work for us, and that really helped. We'd bring in key speakers to kind of talk about certain things. You know, we would tour the venue itself and then have an activity afterwards, which would be seeing a show, because there was so much in Vegas with, you know, not just Cirque, but with Blue Man and Celine Dion and all this stuff that we were all competing for this audience, but also knowing what's out there.
But that's collaboration. You are competitors,
exactly.
but you were collaborating by having a coffee and sharing ideas of what was working.
Or, and you know, jobs that for that matter is, oh, we're looking for somebody. Do you know somebody? And it really did help just in that.
But it fascinates me that in the US, which is arguably the territory where, you know, market forces, we're all in competition, etc., etc. I mean, you know, every single major rock and pop concert, they publish the attendance data and sales on a comparative basis. You know, Beyonce's last tour, here's the box office figures for the entire tour. They publish it. You know, and we get venues that goes, oh, we mustn't possibly tell you how well we're doing. Each other.
Well, no, the danger is if you said I had this fantastic run opening my spring season and I took $200,000 out of the box office, I might say, well, I needn't give a donation then. So there's sometimes too much. There's sometimes too much information. Too much information.
And instead of different sort of concerts being kind of a commercial kind of enterprise, and I've also worked on that side of things, and I know that they actually inflate those numbers and those prices. And whereas arts organisations get funding and things like that, so I think
yes, they are a bit sensitive to it. If I could make my dashboard point, it just seems to me that one of the things that, I mean, for example, PatronBase is a system that could do this. There is data in there which can be very easily set up to feed out, you know. And if you can then set that up so management can actually see, how sales are ticking up, look at the advance in relation to particular events easily, and so on. Those are the kind of things that people want to hear. And in the context of working smarter, it seems to me that that is actually one of the things that I'm seeing is changing the value and the role of the box office in organisations, because it is becoming the database of truth. It is becoming the thing that tells, it's the health barometer, because everybody's now much more worried about their advanced sales, their achieved income, quite literally reporting each night. The Ambassadors Theatre Group in the UK, 39 venues, have a discussion, why were the ice cream sales down last night? Why were the bar sales down in the interval? What was going on? What was wrong? What's the problem? Because that's where the money is to be made, on which survival depends.
Yeah, I mean, it's great having a dashboard, because we're going to argue about this now. Or not, 'cause there's a question there. But it's great having a great graph of amber, red and green of how sales are going. I think as arts marketeers and people selling it and trying to get the message of great art out to the people, it's knowing what to do with that information. And I think, like with some of these kind of CNZ projects, hopefully we can get to the stage where we have that data, where we can expand our audience. There was a question.
There was.
It was you, yes.
I had, sorry. I've got a timing of on-sale question. I seem to have noticed a change here with particularly big concerts and things like that, which are likely to sell out, going on sale 6 months, 8 months, big musicals before they're even happening. And we have a comedy festival, and I'm sure it's similar for a lot of people in the room, that are probably a cheaper ticket price and probably not as likely to sell out because there's a range of options and things like that. Have you is that a trend that's happening overseas as well, or is there any kind of solutions or timings of on sales?
I think the bigger one, if it's going to sell out, pre-registration, because if you've got 1,000 seats and you're going to sell them all, why not get people to sign up for that on sale? Because if you sell that 1,000, great, but the 1,000 people who wanted to come to it, and maybe they can get the hi Roger, you registered for that Celine Dion on sale because I know she's your favourite. You didn't have it. How about some Elton John? So just because you sell out shouldn't be your be all and end all. I think selling out and getting the data. Venues for digital exclusion are having an hour on sale or half hour on sale first on the phones or in person, because those people who haven't got internet access or can't get it because they're in a plane or they're at work and they have got no internet access at work. So it is shifting around, and it's back to the F word of fairness.
Yeah, and I think in the US there was a lot, advanced sales did go down quite a bit. You just never really saw people buying further out because there was so much going on. So it did cut down. We noticed a big hit after the economic crash, that people just didn't buy in advance. Most of our ticket sales were walk up or 3 days beforehand.
And did you look at incentivizing pre-purchase or discounting pre-purchase?
Yes, we did, and that it seemed to help a bit. But again, that discount thing really hurt us, because we started discounting so much, and people knew that if they waited long enough, that they're going to discount it, so then we'll just wait and get a 2-for-1 offer, we'll get a hotel offer. I mean, Roger gave when he came to see me in Vegas the one time, said he got 3 different offers from 3 different places, and it was really, he didn't know which one.
Do you think there's a change in behaviour though, that discounting is a model that is across everything now?
Yes.
And so there's an expectation with clothing, with airplane, meals and things like that, that there's sort of an expectation across those industries. And are there ways that we can do it more cleverly, I guess, because there's sort of the expectation?
I think there's acceptable model. I mean, I hate everyone says the airline model, which drives me mental, where people say the arts, we should have the airline model. The people that are most committed, the people that will commit early to come to your show, for some reason we want to sell a ticket for 1/5 of its value, and people that are unsure at the last minute, we're going to charge them the highest. So I don't think that quite works. But again, people who offer lower prices outside of box office hours, or higher prices, if you buy with certain payment methods, or I think we've all become used to searching for the best price. Who of us ever goes into a store and just buys, a mountain bike? We go and we look at brands, we look at availability, we look at price, And at that stage, we then start entering into kind of purchase behaviour.
And I do think it's about value adding rather than discounting. So, you know, if you want to buy these 2 shows, then we'll offer you a third, you know, at 20% or, but, you know, because you've already bought 2, as opposed to just offering a blanket discount. And I think the kind of early bird model is still working for large, massive brands. So Big Day Out in New Zealand, obviously in Auckland, it's worked really, really well for them. They sold, you know, 10,000 tickets in less than a day with their early bird, and we're able to release another 10,000, you know, and that actually gives them a really, really solid base for building the rest of their, you know, target audience. So, you know, in terms of that kind of really enthusiastic audience then saying, I'm going, means the late, you know, the laggards, if you like, or the late adopters are going to go, oh yeah, I guess I should have got my ticket, but I will now buy it, you know.
I think it's worth saying as well that we hear a lot about price sensitivity being claimed and the reasons for non-attendance and so on. All the research evidence we have is that the reason people don't buy tickets is they don't know the show's on. And we need to remember that.
Or they're waiting for someone to invite them to the show. They are not the initiators, they're the responders. Yeah. And that's about 80% of us.
Or they've forgotten. I mean, the most terrible thing is the number of people you can survey who, when you say about that production, they go, it's not finished yet, has it? But it's unfortunately, it's true. So I suppose I would say, I think when I see organisations deploying a mixture of, you know, some catch-up marketing and some discounting, sometimes I think if the discounting is your chosen incentive, fine, you know. But I wish you'd thought just whether or not you could have made it work with a message that had some validating comments from somebody saying how great the event is and so on, and see if that would sell. Because I'm not sure every time that lowering the price is the thing that gets people to buy. If they're not buying, think that it's another reason, not price sensitivity.
I think we're up against it time-wise, aren't we?
Yes, is there any last questions? Last? Good? No? Right. We're going to get upstairs, but first of all, can I just ask you to show your appreciation for our guests?